The rain was falling heavy, and the little girl stood at the edge of the grave with her small hands trembling as the coffin was lowered into the ground, her eyes wide with fear and grief, and she clutched an old teddy bear that was soaked through, but she held it tight, as if it was the last piece of her father left in the world. The air was thick with whispers. People in black clothes bowed their heads, yet their eyes often glanced toward her with pity, while the tall woman beside her pressed her lips into a thin, cold smile. The woman was her stepmother, her black veil hiding her expression, but her sharp voice cut through the silence. Like a knife, "You do not belong here," she said, her tone sharp and cruel. "Your father is gone, and with him goes any reason to keep you here." The girl shook her head, her tiny voice broken. "Please no, he told me to stay with family. He promised me." The stepmother leaned closer, her perfume sharp, her hand gripping the girl's arm like iron. "Family," she whispered, "is what I choose, and I choose not." Youth girl gasped, her chest tight, as the stepmother pushed her away from the grave. The mourners turned their faces away, pretending not to see. Some shook their heads, but none dared to speak. The rain poured harder, and the girl stumbled into the mud, her dress dirty and clinging to her knees. She looked back at the coffin sinking lower into the ground, her heart breaking, her lips forming silent words. "Goodbye, Papa." The stepmother did not stop. She turned and walked toward the waiting car, her heels sinking into the wet earth, without a care leaving the little girl behind. The driver held an umbrella over her while she climbed inside, shutting the door without looking back. The engine roared to life, and the car disappeared down the long path, leaving the girl alone among strangers. The girl rose slowly, her body shaking, her face pale. She picked up her teddy bear, pressed it to her cheek, and whispered, "I will not cry, not now, not when she wants me to." She began to walk, her small shoes splashing in the puddles, her eyes still fixed on the place where her father had been laid to rest, but she had no place to go. Night fell quickly, the cemetery emptying of people one by one. The girl sat beneath an old tree, the wind biting through her wet clothes. She closed her eyes for a moment, and dreamed of her father's voice, gentle and strong, telling her to be brave, to wait for the light when the night seems to languor. Sudden sound made her eyes snap open. Headlights cut through the mist, a sleek black car gliding silently along the path. It stopped near the gate, and the door opened. A tall figure stepped out, his suit dark, his shoes shining even in the mud, his face hidden in the shadows, but his presence was powerful, calm, commanding. The girl watched with wide eyes, clutching her teddy closer. She thought maybe he was another mourner late, maybe a stranger lost, but then his gaze turned toward her, sharp as lightning, his steps purposeful. As he moved closer, he stopped a few feet away, and for the first time she saw his face, strong features, eyes filled with something she did not understand. Not pity, not cruelty, but something heavier, something dangerous and kind all at once. "Child," he said, his voice deep and steady, "why are you here alone in the dark? Where is your family, though?" Girl swallowed hard, her throat raw. She whispered, "They left me," my stepmother said. "I am not wanted." He knelt down, lowering himself to her level, his hand gentle as he brushed a strand of wet hair from her face, his eyes dark as the storm above him. And he said, "Then she made a mistake before she could ask what he meant." A clap of thunder shook the sky, and somewhere behind them, footsteps echoed across the wet stones. Someone else was there, moving quickly in the shadows, and the girl felt the air grow colder as the man's eyes narrowed. He stood tall again, his jaw tight, and his gaze fixed on the dark figure approaching from the mist. The girl held her teddy bear tighter, her heart pounding as the man whispered to her, "Stay behind me." And just as the shadow drew close, the man stepped forward, his voice rising strong and unyielding. "Who are you, and why are you here?" "At her father's grave." The answer came in a low, mocking laugh, and the girl felt a chill run through her bones, because she knew that laugh. She had heard it before, behind closed doors in the house she once called home. Her stepmother was back. The girl's breath caught her teddy slipping from her arms into the mud. As the tall man, the girl froze. As the figure moved closer through the fog, her stepmother's black veil fluttering in the wind, her heels clicking against the wet stones. Even though the ground was soft, the sound was sharp and cold, like the strike of glass. Her lips curled into a smile that held no kindness, only contempt. She looked at the tall man standing protectively in front of the child, and her voice came smooth and venomous. "How touching," she said, "a stranger playing hero." For a worthless girl, the man did not move. He kept his body tall, his stance strong, his eyes locked on the woman who now stood only a few feet away. His tone was calm but firm. This child is alone in the dark. She does not belong to you anymore. The stepmother let out a short laugh, like a blade scraping across stone. She belongs to no one. She said her father is in the ground, and I have no duty to raise another woman's mistake. The girl felt her heart twist at those words. She wanted to cry, but no tears came, only a deep hollow ache that burned in her chest. She looked up at the man, praying silently that he would not leave her too. He crouched again, his eyes softening as he turned slightly toward her, his voice low but certain. You are not a mistake, little one. Remember that. Then he stood tall once more, his focus shifting back to the woman. Who are you? She asked, her eyes narrowing, her lips twitching with annoyance. You look like someone who thinks his wealth can solve problems. You think you can take what is not yours. The man's jaw tightened, and for a moment, the storm around them seemed to grow louder, heavier. My name is not important, he said, but my word is when I say this child will not suffer in your hands again. The stepmother stepped forward, her eyes sharp, her veil slipping slightly to reveal the cruel twist of her mouth. She said, you know nothing about me or my husband or the burden I have carried. I owe her nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing. She is nothing. The man took a slow step forward, his height towering over her, his gaze unyielding. Then he said, if she is nothing, why do you come back to haunt her? Why not leave her to the shadows, unless you fear losing what you thought you controlled? The stepmother flinched, her eyes darting for just a moment. Then she recovered, her sharp tone cutting through the night. I came to see if the brat had run crying into the street. Already imagine my disappointment when I find some fool pretending to care. The girl pressed herself against the tree trunk, her small body shaking as the storm raged around them, lightning flashing above, illuminating the cold woman and the powerful stranger in the same light, the clash of two worlds, one cruel, one determined. The man finally spoke, his voice like steel. Then leave now, he said. You have no power here. The stepmother's face twisted with rage, her eyes flashing, but she turned slowly, her veil falling back into place. She hissed over her shoulder, keep her, if you like. She will bring you nothing but ruin. And with that she disappeared back into the fog, her silhouette fading until only the sound of her heels echoed, and then silence. The man stood still for a long moment, his breath steady, his gaze fixed on the path where she had vanished. Then he turned slowly back to the girl, his face softened, though the storm still burned in his eyes. He bent down again and picked up the teddy bear from the mud, brushing it off gently before handing it back to her. She stared at him wide-eyed, unsure if she should take it. His voice was gentle now. Take it, he said. It is yours. Her small hand reached out. Trembling, she took the teddy and hugged it tight against her chest. Her lips moved in a whisper. Thank you. He gave her a faint nod, his eyes searching her face. What is your name? He asked softly. Her voice cracked, but she answered, Lily. He smiled, though it was faint and carried sadness. Lily, he said, my name is Daniel, and you are safe now. The girl blinked, her tears finally spilling as she whispered, am I really safe? He placed a hand over his chest, his voice steady as the rain. I give you my word, as long as I stand, you will never be alone. Again the wind roared, the thunder shook the ground, and yet in that moment the girl felt a warmth stronger than the storm. Daniel stood lifting his coat from his shoulders and wrapped it gently around her small frame, the fabric heavy and warm. He looked down at her and said, come with me, Lily. I have a place for you. She hesitated, her eyes searching his face for any sign of cruelty or lies, but she saw none, only a fire burning in his gaze, a fire that told her he was not like her stepmother. He was not like the people who turned away. He was something else, something she could not name but wanted to trust. Daniel led her toward the sleek black car, the door still open from when he arrived. The leather seats gleamed in the faint light. He helped her climb inside, and then closed the door gently before circling to the driver's side, sliding in behind the wheel. The engine hummed as he started it, and the car glided forward through the storm. Lily sat curled in the seat, clutching her teddy, her eyes heavy, but her heart racing. She wanted to ask him why he had helped her, why he cared, but the words stuck in her throat. Daniel drove in silence, his eyes fixed on the road ahead, but inside his mind, shadows stirred, his own secrets pressing against him like the storm outside. He glanced once at the little girl, his jaw tightening as he thought, she does not yet know what waits ahead, and neither does she know why fate has brought us together. The rain eased as the car moved away from the cemetery, the lights of the city glimmering faintly in the distance. Daniel's voice broke the silence, quiet but resolute. Lily, he said, there are things you will come to learn, truths that may hurt, but I promise you one thing, no matter what I will never cast you aside. Her head turned toward him, her small face pale, but her eyes filled with fragile hope. She whispered then, I will stay with you. Daniel gave a single nod, his grip on the wheel tightening as the car carried them both into the unknown, a child without a family, and a man with secrets of his own bound together by the storm of betrayal and the promise of something greater yet unseen and far behind them in the shadows. The stepmother watched from a distance, her eyes gleaming, her lips curved into a sinister smile, for she was not done, not yet. The game had only begun. City lights glowed faint in the distance as the black car carried them through the storm. Lily pressed her face against the cold window, her breath fogging the glass while Daniel kept his hands firm on the wheel, his eyes sharp scanning the road, as if danger could leap out from any shadow. The silence in the car was heavy, filled only by the soft hum of the engine and the beating of rain against the roof. After some time, Daniel slowed the car, turning down a quiet lane that led to tall iron gates. The gates opened automatically, as if sensing his arrival. Beyond them stood a grand house, its walls tall, its windows glowing with soft light. The place felt both safe and strange to Lily. It was larger than any home she had ever seen, and yet something about its stillness made her heart beat faster. Daniel parked the car, stepped out and came around to open her door. He held out his hand, and she hesitated for a moment before placing her small fingers in his palm. His grip was steady, warm. He guided her up the steps and into the house. The moment they stepped inside, the warmth hit her. The air scented faintly of wood and firelight. A wide hall stretched before them with tall ceilings and rich rugs beneath their feet. Woman appeared from one of the rooms, her hair tied back, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. She wore a simple dress, but her presence was commanding. Daniel, she said, her tone steady, you are late, and you are not alone. Daniel placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. This is Lily, he said. She will be staying with us. The woman's eyes flicked to the girl, assessing her quickly, then back to Daniel, her brow furrowed. You know what this means, she said. Daniel's jaw tightened. I know, and I accept it. Lily felt her chest tighten as if she had walked into a place full of secrets. She clutched her teddy closer, her eyes wide. Daniel turned back to her, and his voice softened. Lily, this is Anna. She takes care of many things in this house. You will be safe here. Anna crouched slightly so her eyes met Lily's, her voice calm, though her gaze remained sharp. You must be tired, child. Come, I will show you where to rest. Lily nodded, timidly allowing herself to be led down a hallway. Her room was large, with soft blankets and a window that overlooked the garden. Anna set a small lamp on the table, its glow warm. She gave a small nod. This is yours for now. Try to sleep. Lily placed her teddy on the bed and whispered, thank you. Anna paused, studying the child's face for a moment, before leaving the room without another word. When the door closed, Lily sat on the bed, hugging her teddy. She thought of her father's face, the sound of his voice, the way his hand once held hers. She whispered to the shadows, Papa, I will be brave, like you said. She closed her eyes and sleep pulled her down, though dreams twisted around her, filled with storms and the cruel laugh of her stepmother downstairs. Daniel stood by the fire, his face shadowed. Anna approached, her arms folded. She asked, do you know what you are doing? Daniel turned, his eyes fixed on the flames. She has no one else, Anna, and I cannot leave her. Anna shook her head. You have enemies enough as it is, and now you bring in a child who will become a target. Daniel's voice was low but fierce. Then let them come. I will not abandon her like her stepmother did. Anna studied him for a moment, then sighed, her voice softening. She has your eyes, she said. Daniel turned sharply, his jaw tight. That is impossible. Anna raised a brow. Is it? Daniel said nothing, his gaze hard on the fire, his thoughts heavy. He could still hear the cruel words of the stepmother echoing. She is nothing, but he knew the truth was not so simple. The night passed slowly. Morning came with soft light spilling through the windows. Lily awoke to the sound of birds outside her window. She sat up, her hair messy, her eyes heavy. She rubbed them and clutched her teddy. Before slipping off the bed, she padded quietly through the hall until she reached the stairs. She peered down to see Daniel at the table, speaking with Anna, their voices low but urgent. She crept closer, listening. Daniel's voice was steady. She will not go back there, Anna, not while I breathe. Anna's reply was sharp. You underestimate that woman. She will not stop. And you know why? Daniel's hands clenched around his cup. I know, he said, but I will not let Lily suffer because of what her stepmother. Once Lily's heart pounded. She did not understand all their words, but she felt the weight of them. She stepped down slowly. Daniel looked up and saw her, his face softening at once. "Good morning, Lily," he said, his tone gentle. "Come, sit with us." She walked down, clutching her teddy, and slid into the chair. He poured her a glass of milk and placed bread before her. "Eat." He said, "You must be strong." She nodded quietly, nibbling on the bread, her eyes never leaving his face. For the first time in a long time she felt a small spark of safety, yet deep inside a shadow lingered a whisper that it could not last, that her stepmother would return. Indeed, far away, in another part of the city, the stepmother sat in a room lit only by a single lamp, her veil gone, her sharp eyes fixed on papers spread before her, contracts, deeds, signatures. Her lips curved into a cruel smile. She murmured to herself, "He thinks he has taken her, but he does not know the truth. If the girl lives too long, she could ruin everything." She picked up her phone, dialed a number, her voice cold. "Meet me," she said. "Tonight the child must be dealt with." Her laugh, low and venomous, echoed in the dark back. In the mansion, Lily looked at Daniel, her voice small but clear. "Daniel," she asked, "will my stepmother come for me again?" Daniel held her gaze, his own voice steady. "Yes," he said, "but when she does, we will be ready." The words struck deep in Lily's chest, a promise of war, a promise of survival. And as she sat there with her teddy in her arms, she felt something stirring within her, not just fear, but something new, something that might one day become strength. The storm had not ended, it had only moved from the graveyard into their lives, and every step forward would bring them closer to truths that could shatter everything they thought they knew. The sun rose pale and cold over the mansion, the light spilling across the polished floors and tall windows. Lily stood in the garden barefoot, the grass damp against her toes, her teddy tucked under one arm. She looked up at the sky and whispered to her father, as if he could still hear her. She promised she would be strong, but her small voice cracked as she spoke. She felt so small in this world of towering walls and dark secrets. Daniel watched her from the terrace, his arms folded, his face unreadable. Anna stepped up beside him, her voice low. "You are getting attached, Daniel." He did not turn, his eyes fixed on Lily. "She has no one," Anna said sharply. Then her tone softened. "But you are not just anyone, you know what it means. If she stays here." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I know," he said, "but I cannot turn away." Anna studied him with sharp eyes, then murmured, "Do you see it yet? The way she looks at you." Daniel glanced at her, frowning. "What do you mean?" Anna said. "She trusts you, and that trust will demand more than words." One day in the garden, Lily bent to pick a flower. She brushed the dew from its petals and whispered, "It is for you, Papa." She placed it by the tree, at the edge of the lawn, as if building a secret shrine. Daniel felt something shift in his chest, but before he could step closer, a noise broke. The crunch of wheels on gravel, a black car pulling into the driveway. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Anna's hand moved instinctively toward her pocket. The car stopped, and two men stepped out, dressed in suits, their eyes sharp, their movements stiff. One held a briefcase, the other scanned the house, as if measuring its strength. Daniel moved forward, his voice cold. "What do you want?" The man with the briefcase gave a thin smile. "Mr. Daniel," he said, "we come with a message from Mrs. Gray." Daniel's expression hardened. He said her name like it was poison. What message could she send that I would care to hear? The man opened the case, pulling out documents. He laid them on the hood of the car. "She says the child belongs to her legally as guardian now that her father is gone." Daniel's jaw tightened, his fists curling. He spat the words. "She cast the girl out in the rain the night of his funeral, and now she claims rights." The man shrugged. "Her words carry weight in the court, Mr. Daniel, unless you can prove otherwise." Daniel stepped closer, his presence towering. "You tell her this," he said. "The girl is not hers to claim, not anymore. If she tries again, she will find more than paper standing in her way." The man smirked as if amused, then gathered his papers, slid them back into the case, and returned to the car without another word. The engine roared, and the car pulled away, leaving the driveway empty. Once more Lily had been watching from the garden, her heart pounding. She ran to Daniel, clutching his sleeve. "Daniel, is she coming back?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel knelt, his eyes fierce but steady. "Listen to me, Lily," he said. "She will try, but you are safe with me." She nodded, but her grip on his sleeve did not loosen. Anna stood nearby, her eyes cold as steel. She said she will not stop Daniel, and Daniel answered, "Then neither will I." That night the mansion grew quiet, but sleep did not come easily for Lily. She lay awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling shadows flickering across the walls. She hugged her teddy tight, but every creak of the house, every brush of wind against the window made her flinch. She finally slipped out of bed, padding softly through the hall until she reached the study. The door slightly ajar, light spilling out. She peeked in and saw Daniel at the desk, his head bowed over papers, his hand rubbing his temple. She stepped inside. Daniel lifted his head at once, his eyes softening when he saw her. "Lily, what is it?" he asked. "I cannot sleep," she whispered. He rose from the desk and motioned her closer. She crossed the room, and he lifted her gently onto the leather chair beside him. He asked softly, "Do you want me to tell you a story?" She nodded, her eyes wide. He leaned back, his voice steady but low. "When I was young, I lost someone to someone I loved very much. I thought the world was empty after that, but then I learned something important. We carry the people we lose inside. US always. They guide us when we feel lost." He looked into her eyes and said, "Your father is here, Lily, right here." He touched her chest over her heart. Her lips trembled as tears welled, but she whispered, "Then he is not gone." Daniel shook his head. "Not truly," he said, "and you must be strong enough to honor him." Lily nodded slowly, resting her head against his arm. She whispered, "I will try and soon sleep," claimed her. Daniel watched her small face, his heart heavy with the weight of promises. He had not yet spoken aloud. Outside the mansion, shadows moved in the trees, unseen eyes watching, unseen hands waiting. The stepmother stood in the dark, veil gone, her face lit by the glow of a cigarette, her lips twisted into a cruel smile. She whispered to the man beside her, "Tomorrow we strike." Morning broke with a false calm. Lily helped Anna in the kitchen, trying to learn how to cut bread with small, careful hands. Anna watched her quietly, her sharp edges softening just slightly. "You will get better at this, child," she said. Lily gave a faint smile. Daniel entered the room, his expression serious. Anna looked up at once. "What is it?" she asked. Daniel's voice was low. "They will come soon." Anna's hand tightened on the knife. Lily looked between them, her small voice breaking. "What do you mean?" Daniel bent down, his eyes fierce but warm. "Do not be afraid, Lily. Whatever happens today, you stay close to me." She nodded, though fear made her chest tight. The first sound was the crack of gates forced open. The second was the growl of engines, men in black, flooding the driveway. Daniel moved fast, pulling Lily behind him, his voice sharp. Anna locked the back doors. Anna obeyed her movements, swift as she sealed the house. Daniel led Lily into the hall, his hand firm on her shoulder. The front doors burst open, men pouring inside, their steps heavy. Daniel stood tall, his eyes blazing. "You will not have her," he said. The men spread out surrounding him, but Daniel did not flinch. He pulled Lily close behind him, his voice steady. "Lily, remember what I told you. Your father is inside you. Be strong." The stepmother entered. Last, her eyes cold, her smile cruel. She looked at Lily and sneered. "Come, child, you belong to me." Daniel's voice cut through like thunder. "She belongs to no one but herself." The mansion shook with attention. The storm outside, nothing compared to the storm within, and in that moment, Lily knew that this was not just about her. This was about power, about secrets buried with her father's secrets. Her stepmother would kill to protect secrets. Daniel seemed already to know, and the truth was about to break free. The men spread out across the hall, their dark suits blending with the shadows as rain pounded against the tall windows. Lily clutched her teddy to her chest, her small body trembling, but Daniel stood like a wall in front of her, his eyes sharp, his voice steady. The stepmother's smile was cruel, her veil gone, her lips painted blood red. She raised her chin and spoke with venom. "You think you can stop me, Daniel? You think you can keep her from me?" Daniel's voice was calm, but each word carried fire. "You cast her out in the rain on the night of her father's funeral. You lost your right to call her anything." The stepmother's laugh was sharp like broken glass. She stepped forward, the men parting around her. She looked down at Lily with eyes like knives. "The girl is the key," she hissed. "She carries what belongs to me." Daniel's jaw tightened, his body tense. "What do you mean?" The stepmother's eyes glinted with a dangerous light. "You do not know, do you? The fool left everything to her, every signature, every deed, every fortune hidden behind his name. The child owns it all, and until she is gone, I own nothing." Yes. Breath caught. She looked up at Daniel, her eyes wide and wet. Her stepmother's voice turned cold as stone. "Give her to me, and I will spare you." But Daniel stepped forward, his presence towering over the room, his words low but filled with thunder. "You will never touch her." Again the men shifted, uncertain, their eyes flicking between the woman and the man who stood unshaken. The stepmother snarled, her voice rising. "Take her," she commanded. At once the men surged forward. Daniel moved like lightning, his hands striking the first one aside, his body twisting with strength that seemed impossible to resist. He drove them back one by one, his fists heavy, his stance unbreakable. The sound of struggle echoed through the mansion. Lily pressed herself against the wall, her heart pounding her teddy, crushed to her chest. Anna appeared from the back, her eyes blazing, a blade gleaming in her hand. She struck at the men with precision, her movements swift and deadly. The hall became chaos, the clash of bodies, the crash of glass, the echo of footsteps. Daniel's voice rang out above the storm. Anna, protect the child. The stepmother stood at the center, untouched, her eyes burning with rage. She hissed, useless fools, and began moving toward Lily herself, her heels striking the floor like gunshots. Lily's breath quickened. She tried to run, but the woman's hand shot out like a claw, grasping at her shoulder. Before she could scream, a strong arm pulled her back. Daniel stood between them, his face hard as stone. The stepmother's eyes locked on his, filled with venom. She whispered, "You do not understand, Daniel. She is the bloodline. She carries the legacy. You fight for nothing." Daniel's eyes narrowed, his voice sharp. "I fight because she is a child who deserves love, not chains." The stepmother's fury broke. She lunged at him, but he caught her wrist, his grip unbreakable, his voice a growl. "You destroyed her father's peace. You will not destroy hers," she spat back. He destroyed himself with weakness. Daniel's hand tightened, his eyes blazing, then whispered, "No, he destroyed himself by trusting you." Her face twisted with rage. She screamed at the men to attack again, but most lay groaning on the ground, defeated. Anna stood with her blade steady over them, her eyes cold. Daniel shoved the stepmother back, her body stumbling across the floor. She glared at him, breathing hard. "You think you have won," she hissed. "This is not the end." Daniel leaned forward, his voice low and fierce. "For you it is." The stepmother's eyes flicked to Lily, her lips curling into a smile that chilled the girls bones. She whispered, "Enjoy her while you can, Daniel, because soon she will learn who you truly are." Daniel's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, the woman turned and fled, slipping into the night, leaving the broken men behind. Silence filled the hall, broken only by the storm outside. Lily ran to Daniel, her arms wrapping around his leg. She sobbed into his coat. Daniel knelt, pulling her close, his arms strong round her, his voice gentle. "It is over now, Lily." But even as he said it, his eyes burned with unease. Anna approached, her blade still in her hand, her voice low, "She knows too much." Daniel nodded, his jaw tight. "She knows, but she said something else, something." Anna frowned. Daniel's voice was grim. "She said Lily carries the legacy. If that is true, then the danger has only begun." Lily looked up at him, her eyes full of fear. Daniel brushed her wet hair back from her face, his voice soft but steady. "No matter what truth comes, Lily, you are not alone. Do you hear me?" She nodded, though her heart still trembled. That night the mansion was quiet again, but the silence carried weight. Lily lay awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought of her stepmother's words, the legacy, the fortune, the danger. She clutched her teddy tighter and whispered to herself, "I will not let her win, Papa. I will be brave." Daniel stood outside her door, watching over her, his shadow long against the hall, his mind heavy with secrets, because in his heart he knew the stepmother was right about one thing: Lily's bloodline was the key. But what she did not know was that Daniel had been waiting for this moment for years. He had sworn an oath long ago to protect what her father left behind. Not just money, not just power, but something far more dangerous. And now, with Lily in his care, the storm was far from over. It was only rising in. Somewhere in the dark of the city, the stepmother sat once more, her eyes burning with hate, her voice low as she whispered to her unseen ally, "She thinks she is safe, but we will take everything from her and from him. The game has only begun, and when the final move comes, he will wish he never crossed." The night grew colder, the storm raged on, and the mansion stood as a fragile island of safety, surrounded by shadows waiting to strike again. The dawn broke, soft and grey over the mansion, but there was no peace in the air. Daniel stood by the window, his hands clasped tight behind his back, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Lily sat at the table, clutching her teddy, her small frame hunched, her eyes hollow from sleepless nights. Anna moved quietly around the room, preparing tea, but her sharp eyes never stopped watching. The storm had passed, but the silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Lily finally whispered, "Daniel, is she coming back?" Daniel turned his gaze from the window, his voice low. "Yes, she will come back, and this time she will not come alone." Anna looked at him sharply. "You cannot keep this fight hidden forever, Daniel. You must tell her the truth." Daniel's jaw tightened, his eyes dropping to Lily. "She is only a child," he said. Anna's reply was sharp. "She is also the heir." Lily looked between them, her heart thudding. "Heir?" she asked. "What does that mean?" Daniel knelt by her side, his face heavy with shadows. "Lily, your father left you everything. Everything he owned, everything he built. It is all yours." Lily's lips trembled. "Me, but why?" Daniel brushed her damp hair back from her forehead, his voice soft. "Because he trusted you, and because he believed you would be stronger than the ones who wanted to destroy him." The words filled her chest with both warmth and fear. Anna spoke flatly. "She will not be safe. The stepmother will use every weapon she has." Daniel's voice cut firm. "Then she will have me, and she will have this house, and she will not be alone ever again." That evening the gates of the mansion shook. The sound of engines filled the driveway. Daniel stepped outside, his coat whipping in the wind. Anna beside him, blade at her side. Lily stood at the door, watching, her small hands clutching the teddy. The cars stopped, and the stepmother emerged, dressed in black, her eyes burning with fire. Beside her stood men with cold faces and dark suits, but also another figure, cloaked, tall, silent, his presence heavy. The stepmother's voice rang sharp across the driveway. "Daniel," she sneered, "you think you can guard what is not yours? The child is mine, the fortune is mine." Daniel's reply was calm but thunderous. "She is not yours. She never was. You threw her away, and I picked her up from the ashes. She is free of youth." Cloaked figure stepped forward, his voice deep and chilling. "The girl carries blood that binds her to power. She must return." Daniel's eyes locked on him, his stance hard and strong. "She returns to no one. She belongs to herself." The stepmother's laughter split the night. "Then let us finish this." Daniel. The men surged forward, but Daniel met them head on, his fists striking like iron, his body unyielding. Anna fought like a blade of fire, her movements fast, precise. The hall filled with the clash of battle. The storm outside seemed to echo the war within. Lily stood frozen at the door, her eyes wide, but then she remembered her father's words, her father's voice, "Be brave." Lily, she stepped forward, clutching her teddy, her voice small but clear. "Stop!" Her cry cut through the chaos. Everyone turned. The stepmother's eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" Lily lifted her chin, though her body shook. "You cannot take me. I am not yours. I am my father's, and I am mine." Daniel's heart surged, pride burning in his chest. The stepmother's face twisted with rage. She lunged forward, her hand reaching like claws, but Daniel moved faster, his arm striking her back, his voice a roar. "You will never touch her again." The cloaked figure tried to push through, but Anna's blade flashed, his cloak torn, his body driven back. The men fell one by one until silence filled the mansion again. The stepmother staggered to her knees, her face pale, her eyes wide with fury. She spat at Daniel. "You think you have won, but the truth will eat you alive." Daniel leaned close, his voice low and fierce. "The truth is what will free her, and it is the lie that has destroyed." Youth woman's eyes burned one last time, then she fled, dragging what remained of her men into the night. The cloaked figure gone with her, the mansion was left in silence. Broken bodies scattered across the floor. Lily ran to Daniel, throwing her arms around him. He lifted her high, his voice soft. "You were brave, Lily, braver than anyone." Anna sheathed her blade, her eyes on the child. "She will survive," she said, "not because of wealth, not because of power, but because she has a heart that cannot be broken." Daniel nodded, his eyes on Lily, his voice steady. "And she will never be alone." Days passed. The mansion slowly quieted. The shadow of the stepmother faded, though Daniel knew she would always linger in the dark, waiting for weakness. But Lily changed with each sunrise. She laughed. Sometimes she played, sometimes, and though her nights still carried shadows, she learned to stand tall. One evening she stood with Daniel by the garden, the same place she had once laid a flower for her father. She held the teddy in her hands and whispered, "Papa, I will be strong. I will not be afraid." She looked up at Daniel, her eyes clear. Daniel smiled, though it carried sorrow and pride. "You already are strong." Liliana stepped onto the terrace, her voice sharp but not unkind. "Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are." Lily nodded, her small face calm, her voice certain. "Then maybe it is not the end." Daniel looked down at her, his eyes warm. "No, little one, it is only the beginning." And as the wind swept through the garden, carrying the scent of flowers and rain, Lily held her teddy close, her heart steady. She was no longer the child cast out at the grave. She was something more. She was a survivor. She was the heir of love, not just legacy. And with Daniel and Anna by her side, she was free. The story closed, not with despair, but with strength. The girl who was cast out had found her place. The man who had secrets had found his purpose. The stepmother had lost the game she tried to play, and the mansion once filled with shadows now carried the quiet promise of light at the end.